Yo, welcome to another Zwift Racing League recap. Quick commentary here on what is race 5. It's a points race around the Muckle Yin. One lap of the course, 25.4 kilometers. Hopefully you enjoyed what is becoming my trademark start to the Glasgow crit circuit. An all-out sprint straight out of the gate to try and get as many points as I can on the champion sprint forward. The Cat-A roster was pretty stacked, so it was pretty important for me to know my role from the beginning here. My strategy was pretty simple on this one. It was come out of the gate, get the points off that first sprint, then try and hold on to breakaway Bray, reverse the first climb of the race. Hopefully I could be with the pack and maybe making a difference in that climb. I anticipated to kind of come out of there and be struggling. From there on, it was just about finishing as high in the final standings as I could to collect as many minor points as possible. All's going pretty good here. I'm keeping with the pack, but my heart rate is a little bit high for this early in the race. 182 is pretty high. This is where I make the first mistake of the race though. I misinterpret this banner as being a meaningful part of the race. I do kind of increase the watts here, which pushes that heart rate again. I quickly realize that it's not and then try and drop back into the pack. This really emphasizes the importance of doing the recon before the race. Had I have done the recon, I would have realized that this was not a significant banner in the race and I would have been able to just sit in the pack and conserve some energy. Skipping ahead ever so slightly, we're about 5.5 minutes into the race and we're coming into the first pass through the corkscrew. This is not a pointed climb, but it is kind of a decisive part of the race. You can see here everyone's ratcheting up the watts. I'm pushing up, getting closer to 400, 500 watts as we go up here. People are shooting feathers. I've got to make a decision. Do I use my feather or do I save it for the upcoming breakaway Bray? I do make the decision to go with the feather. I do want to keep the pack. You see here I am pushing 500-600 watts with a feather and it's only just keeping me on the pack. I think it was maybe the right move, but am I going to pay for it down the line? As we crest the top, everybody eases off a little bit. It's a little bit of a downhill, a little bit of respite, because I think everyone realizes that breakaway Bray is just up ahead here. As we hit the climb marker, it's pretty clear who was out for this climb to get the points. All of the remaining feathers are shot here. Anyone who hung onto the feather was trying to make their best chance at points on this particular climb. I'm pushing around 450-500 watts. I'm pretty baked at this time. I'm struggling to hang on, and there's really no surprise that this is the point in which I'm dropped from this race. From here on, it's about damage control. I managed to pedal onto the back of a couple of teammates after a little bit of time in the wind. Fortunately, this gives me someone to work with as we try and make a plan for finishing as highly as we can in the final standings. The next rider up the road is another teammate, and just ahead of him is a couple of key competitors that we would like to get ahead of for the finish of this race. This climb is a slog for me. I've used a lot of energy just getting onto the back of these two teammates so I have a riding partner. So I'm feeling pretty burnt, especially after the heavy start to the race. But I know that if I can't hang on to these guys, I'm really going to be left out to dry here for the rest of this race. We still have 14 kilometers to go. If I want a partner, the next one is like 40 seconds behind me. So I'm going to be giving up a lot of time if I'm going to be dropping back to be getting a riding partner from behind. So I've got to dig deep and I've got to push through. You can see in my image here, I'm visibly struggling and I'm not even kind of holding threshold watts at this point. But I know I've got to dig deep and I know that I've got to stick on the back. As I hit the summit, I've managed to hang on to one of my teammates. I'm on the back of Satchel, and that gives me a lot of relief as we come into the descent. Donnelly has managed to drop us, and he's almost caught up to Mitchell. Then there's about another 40 seconds ahead of them until the next group. As we begin this descent, I hit my anvil. This is the second mistake that I make in this race. I hit this anvil way too soon. I'm not going fast enough. The descent is not steep enough, and I haven't got enough energy to put the amount of watts that are needed to make it work properly. You can see here the anvil being used correctly by Satchel in my team. He hits it right at this base. It is a 9% descent. He's really putting the watts into it, and you see he just flies away from me. And I'm dropped. Again, I'm off the back, and I've got work to do to get back onto my team. Skipping ahead again after what has been a pretty painful solo time trial. As I hit the base of Breakaway Bray for the second time, I managed to see the team ahead. I've got 4 teammates just up the road, and I put the gas down on this climb. I use my feather. I'm gonna get back on this group, and I'm gonna get a bit of help for the remainder of this race. Heart rate's up 185 and climbing, pushing 450 watts, but it seems to be enough. It gets me back on, and I think it gives me a chance of pulling through and maybe even improving my position in this race. There was a brief moment where I thought that maybe my push on this climb would be enough to get near the points. I was kind of kidding myself on that one, a long way off. But we're back on. That's all that matters at this point in the race for me. Everybody plays nice until we hit the base of the south climb. Murphy says that he's going to go and try and get some points on this one, so he runs off ahead. Everyone else is kind of just trying to hold, trying to put in as much as they can, trying to make up time to that next group. They are a minute and 10 ahead of us. It may be a very difficult task to consume any more places at this point. We're pretty firm in that kind of 50 to 53rd, 55th range, but we're going to try and hold to time as best as we possibly can. I am bringing up the rear marker for the team in this climb, but I'm going to put all of the juice that I have left in to get over the top here. I don't want to end up in a position like I did on the north side of this climb where I fell off the back and had so much work to do to get back onto the group. So I'm putting in the last bits of effort, cresting the top, making sure I stick with the pack. Satchel's with me, Mitchell and Donnelly are ahead. They're going to hit the descent before me. They're probably going to get away, but I will have a partner as we move forward. Skipping ahead to the final opportunity for points in this race, the Clyde kicker. I managed to put some time between me and Murphy and Satchel and catch up on Mitchell and Donnelly, who were ahead. I had been wondering for the duration of this race why Mitchell was hanging with us. I guess this is where I get to see his tactic unfold. He hits the Clyde kicker at 13 watts per kilo. This was clearly his number one objective for this race, and his role to play within the Aero 2 team. I later noticed that he did manage to get maximum points on this, which was great and really helped put their team into a better position. I push out as much as I possibly can. I'm hopeful that I can maybe catch Donnelly before we get to the line here. No such luck as I turn the corner into the final sprint of the race. Another pass-through champion sprint, although no points available for this one. I make sure I put everything that I have left out on this one, really just doing this one out of pride. I finished the race in 51st place, managed to bag some points, which is great. All in all, fairly satisfied with the result. Certainly a couple of mistakes here, and definitely some learnings that I can take away. I feel like I contributed well to my team. I knew my role and I was able to deliver on what I was trying to achieve. How did you go on this stage? Did you manage to get some points? Did you manage to place highly? Let me know in the comments, I'd love to hear how it went. Or maybe even, what did you learn from this race that you might use in upcoming races? Other than that, that's a wrap. Until next time, see ya!